Monday Night Wars podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Night Wars. We are live with WCW Nitro at the Omni. What the hell is that? In Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Scott, and with me, as always, is Joseph, the body and the mind.
Ooh,
Rojas. How are you doing?
I liked that. I
Mhm.
liked that. I'm good, man. I'm good. It was an exciting night last night on Elimination Chambers. What
You mean
happened last
2
night?
nights ago, because this is Monday.
Oh, true. Yeah. Sorry, we're recording the day after. Yes, 2 nights ago.
Don't spoil the magic.
Yeah. Yeah, we never go inside baseball on them ever.
They don't know.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we got a few things we got to talk about, Scott.
Okay, we got news of the day.
We do have news of the day. Let's start with the first one. That's pretty easy. It won't happen this week, and it will not happen next week on our standard podcast. But the pay-per-view that's coming up, which pay-per-view? Oh, uncensored, which they have to shout 17 million times during the pay-per-view.
It's awful, and you get to see our faces.
So that pay-per-view, we finally have the ability to record video. So we're going to be testing that. That'll be exclusively on our Patreon, $2 a month. And so we're going to be testing that out, and we're going to be throwing that on there and seeing if we can do that with all of our episodes. Obviously, Spotify will still have the audio versions of them in case you need to, and really most of your platforms will in case you need to listen on the road. But if you want to put it on YouTube and stuff, we're going to be able to have that capability. It's already technically on YouTube. It's just only audio. So we're doing that.
I have to say, I also think that when the time comes, God forbid, but it's going to happen when we also start doing Thunder.
Yeah.
Because you and I have talked about how we're just going to, because we do a lot of preparation for these shows,
Yes.
right? Doing a lot of research and those sorts of things. And we're like, we don't want to do that twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're thinking we're just going to do like a watch. Like we're going to watch the Thunder episodes for the first time, just completely no notes, no preparation, just go into it and just talk about it like live. Kind of like a commentary track kind of thing, which I think will be better with video, because then people can see us go like, oh, or I don't like that, you know?
Yeah. I agree, because it'll be Thunder and then it'll be SmackDown when that happens, and all those episodes will be on our Patreon. So once we get there, if you're like, oh, I want to see those are only be on our Patreon. They're not going to be on our standard, Spotify, iTunes, whatever. They're not going to be on any of those things. Is still iTunes? I don't have Apple. I have no idea.
No, I don't know either. But yeah, I mean, this is the Monday Night Wars. It's not the Thursday Night Wars. So that's bonus material that goes on the Patreon. $2 a month. Wow, what a deal.
Right. Also, I want to have Jamie make a Thursday Night Wars logo for those episodes. That's going to be fire. Yeah.
We'll have to get that Halo guy back too.
Call him back. Or we just dub over when he does the Monday instead of just Thursday Night Wars podcast.
That's hot. I like that. I like that.
Oh, man. So going into some more news, we officially have a merch store. Well, it's not our merch store. We've partnered up with dandy.shop. It's literally www.dandy.shop. And you can find all of our merch. We have things like standard, classic logo shirt. We've got it in the yellow logo. We've got we have an MTV inspired logo shirt, which you've probably seen on some of the backgrounds of some of the drawings I've done in the past. We have a Gatorade inspired one. We got a hat that is snap into it, and it's Monday Night Wars, but it's, obviously supposed to be Slim Jim, but, copyright infringement and all that. We do have the standard logo t-shirt. So if you like the red and yellow, we got that one too. We got a water bottle. We got a standard logo hat. And then we have, this is my personal favorite that I can't wait for mine to come in. It's a shirt. And you know what it says, Scott?
What does it say, bro?
It says, "That's beautiful, man."
That's beautiful, man.
My favorite.
Do these come in V-necks?
They do not, unfortunately, which, for me is a big old no-no.
Yeah. I once, this joke, I once got just a random shirt in the mail. I was You know, we used to be AEW guys. Like I feel like we bash on AEW a lot, but AEW kind of brought us back into wrestling.
Yeah,
and then it went off a friggin' cliff. But they just Thelma and Louised it right off into the Grand Canyon. But I was big on Eddie Kingston, and this Eddie Kingston shirt shows up in the mail. I'm like, who sent me this Eddie Kingston shirt? And I get it out, and it's a V-neck, and I go, I know who sent me this shirt. Because my guy is all about the V-necks. So we got to work on that. We got to work on that.
Yeah, we're going to have to get those in there at some point. I don't know how the store works, so we'll figure it out. Also on that store, because I do know who runs the store, so we'll go ahead and plug some of her other merch.
Oh.
If you like an anime that may or may not involve slaying of demons, she got a lot of merch that is inspired by that. Obviously, does not have the ability to specify what those things are, but they're obscure enough that if you like the show or the manga, you'll get them immediately, and they're pretty freaking sick. I've actually got a few pairs of shorts that I wear to the gym. So yeah, awesome stuff. So that's the next part of our news, and the news keeps coming.
Hold on. What's the website again?
Dandy.shop.
And let me just tell you, folks, if you go on there and you buy something, you're a dandy if you do.
Oh, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, I've been waiting, bro. That's not the line, but I made it the line.
Also, I should specify Dandy is spelled Dande. It is in all of our socials. It is on there, Twitter, Instagram, I think TikTok. I might have to add on there. I don't know if I've added it on there yet. I'm pretty sure I have. It's on our Patreon. It's on our Spotify. When we drop new episodes, I will have the link on there. So if you don't want to type it in, you can find the link on all those things. But the news keeps on coming, Scott. And it's all specific to us, which is like the first time I've ever talked this much about news, and it's actually specific to our podcast.
Tell us.
So we have 2 new subscribers to our Patreon. And so we wanted to shout them out because I think that's important to do. First one, because you remember the last one we shouted out was Wyatt, right? That's who it was? That was our last one that we shouted out?
Okay.
I don't
know. I'm trusting you on this. You are our vice president of membership.
So we had one that actually slipped through the cracks. There's a while where for some reason our Patreon was not emailing us. So I missed one. So I apologize. Michael Sanducci has been a Patreon member since the end of January, very end of January. So thank you, Michael, for subscribing to our Patreon. And then we got a brand new one, and I messaged him to make sure I knew how to pronounce his last name, which it's not, when you hear it, you're like, that's not hard to pronounce at all, but it is spelled in a weird way where I wasn't sure which one it was. So it's Damian Bettis is his last name, but it's kind of spelled like Mookie Betts, but with an E between the T and the S. So I wasn't sure if it was Betts or Bettis. So I had to reach out to him, and he was like, "You're insane. How do you not know how to read?" And the answer to that is Hooked on Phonics did not work for me.
We were educated in the state of California.
So thanks, Damien. Thanks for subscribing as well. You guys' $2 all go back into making this podcast. Basically, we're almost at a point where you guys are actually paying for our yearly subscription to our recording, which is awesome. So thank you guys for putting some faith in us, trust in us, and supporting us.
We appreciate it because this thing ain't cheap. So we appreciate it. Anyways, more news?
No, that's it for me, man. Unless you want to talk about Elimination Chamber.
Well, I feel like you've got it. I feel like this has kind of become a thing now where after a pay-per-view, because you're watching, you give us a quick review. You give us your was it a 5-star pay-per-view?
Was it a 5-star pay-per-view? I'd say it's like a 4.5, somewhere around there. It was good. It was a good pay-per-view.
That's pretty good.
Clear.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if I would say it's a 5-star. I haven't taken the time to like take notes on it. You know what I mean? Like I don't do that when I'm watching. I just experience it. I'm in there just enjoying it. So it's a little bit hard for me to kind of rate the entire thing. I will say it was fantastic. Like I did enjoy the hell out of the pay-per-view. You were just vibing. Yeah, exactly.
And it gave off a good vibe is what you're saying. Worth a whop. Absolutely. So here's what I'm going to do, because if you're thinking about this and you're listening to the Spotify version, and you go, hey, hold on, he didn't talk about the Royal Rumble. I did, but you have to subscribe to Patreon or else you're not going to get that. So here's what I'm going to do right here, Scott. I'm going to let you know from this point on, when I say now,
we are cutting this out and we're just jumping into whatever we're going into on the normal show. But if you subscribe to the Patreon, you're going to hear my thoughts on the Elimination Chamber.
Whoa.
You like that?
Wow.
All right, you ready?
You're a tease, bro. What a tease.
All right, you ready?
I guess.
Now.
And there's a limousine pulling up. And it's the NWO. Everybody's there. Oh, it's a big old like Hummer limo. It's douchey as hell. It's perfect for the NWO. I love it. But then there's another limousine, Joseph. Who more? Who else has the NWO got? Well, wait. It's the president of Turner Sports. He's here tonight too. And we are told that he outranks Eric Bischoff. This is exciting, Joseph. I feel like they've heard us and our complaints about how the NWO is an unstoppable force and it's boring, and they're trying to do something about it here. What do you think?
I mean, I didn't give this like a grade or anything because it's very quick, but it is intriguing, right? It does make you kind of want to tune in to see what's going to happen because they do mention, like you said, his importance and that he is essentially Bischoff's boss. So we'll see what happens. But I will say I do like this new direction.
We need a new direction. So I'm excited to see what happens. But before we can figure that out, we got to watch Conan, which I'm fine with. But Hugh Morris versus Steve Mongo McMichael and Jeff Jarrett, because now Jeff Jarrett is part of the Five Horsemen. And this is a 3-minute, 13-minute match, Joseph. Tell me about this.
Hugh Morris accidentally hits Conan and Mongo takes over. Public Enemy runs in to grab the briefcase and Jeff Jarrett pulls it from them and accidentally hits Mongo and Conan gets the win. Mean Gene then interviews the Horseman because of course he's going to. And Arn is mad at Jarrett. Then Jarrett shoots back at Arn saying he's instigating. Okay. He name drops Ric Flair and says, you're making the Nature Boy look bad. Oh, sorry. Ric Flair says this. He name drops Ric Flair, and then Ric Flair gets really mad about this and says, hey, you're making the Nature Boy look bad. We gave you a chair, sit in it, don't fall over, which I will say, probably the best line we've heard from Flair in a long time. Segment should have ended here at this line, but instead it continues with Deborah speaking nonsense, and then it just becomes exactly what we've seen, which is unfortunate. And so I gave it a C. It's fine. The match is fine, but the segment is only interesting because of Arn and Ric Flair, and then it derails.
And Jarrett and Mongo are gonna be wrestling Public Enemy at Uncensored. I guess that's why we needed to. I feel like, aren't pay-per-views supposed to be like the culmination of storylines, right? Instead, we just invented a storyline to have a match at the pay-per-view. Like,
right.
The pay-per-view's next week, and we're just inventing matches.
Well, I mean, and here's the funny thing is that match is going to go into the garbage can next Monday.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Because up next, though, we got Diamond Dallas Page, good guy Diamond Dallas Page, by the way, get back in the time machine, coming back to now. That dude is saving so many wrestlers' lives with just with whatever he's doing. Buff Bagwell is a big example. Buff Bagwell was on the skids, and DDP said, "Move in with me." Got that guy in the straight and narrow. And now Lex Luger. Lex Luger has been in a wheelchair for years
and years. Yeah.
And DDP's working with him. Dude is walking with a walker. But dude is walking. He's getting up out of the chair and walking. I tell you, good guy DDP.
So I said this to you briefly, and I honestly think it's true that without trying, because it's not anything he ever wanted, DDP is the most important person in wrestling history.
And just seems like a nice guy on like a lot of these dudes.
He's constantly helping wrestlers who are in bad spots without just going, here's some money because they're going to blow it. Like, he's like, no, let's get you back on your feet. Literally in the case of Lex Luger, which is just so fucking cool.
Except not in this case, because he don't let Rick Fuller get back on his feet. Because we got our match.
Transition.
Yeah, we got DDP versus although I said his name, I got to do the gimmick. Let me put my peepers on. Rick Fuller in 2 minutes, 8 seconds. Tell me.
Tony Schiavone mentions that despite DDP's clear flaws, he's become a leader for WCW. This is really good commentary from Tony Schiavone because it's true. DDP's been a heel the entire time. They've never really given him a definitive face turn. They've given him some kind of teasers on face turns. I guess NWO attacking him is kind of definitive, but they need to explain like more than just the NWO attacking him, why because the NWO has attacked like the Four Horsemen. They're kind of heels. They've attacked Dungeon of Doom. They're definitely heels. So they need to explain like why he is no longer a heel. And so him being this like locker room leader now kind of explains that. Fuller goes for a scoop slam and DDP twists over him and hits the diamond cutter, bang, for the win. Mean Gene interviews DDP. He asks about last week getting attacked, and DDP says that the people know who the real deal is. Obviously, Savage has snapped. If you're that much of a savage, snap into this. Bang! I gave it a C+. The match is whatever. The interview is very quick. It's literally as long as I just said. So
I loved snap into the bang.
Yeah,
loved
it's pretty good.
It was ridiculous.
That's what
and
the plus is for.
It's good. Well, and at the end though, Gene gets a little biblical.
Does he? I don't remember.
Yeah, he talks about how Savage is going to have to pay for his sins. My God. Huh. He should though, because it's a terrible angle and we hate it. So
the frustrating thing is it's going to be immediately good, but only because of his rivalry with DDP. And then it's going to go back to being bad after that.
I mean, the Macho Man can make anything good, so it's not hard, but it's
never his fault that it's not good. Yeah.
Could be so much better. Oh, so much better. But then we get Juventud versus, hold on, let me put on my peepers. Ray Mendoza Jr., who I think we actually have had wrestle before. 5 minutes, 6 seconds.
I know we've had him because you got so frustrated because he's the Ray we don't want. Tony Schiavone calls him Ray Medusa, and Zbyszko asks if he has Medusa on his mind with the Freudian slip. I mean, I do. This is a fun cruiserweight match that Guerrera ultimately wins with the 450 splash. I gave it a C+ as well. No storyline. It's pretty quick, like you said, but it is fun. Ray Mendoza Jr. is not a bad wrestler by any stretch, so this is just a good cruiserweight, kind of a nice palate cleanser, and I enjoyed it.
Bro, I'm mad now, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because I looked up Ray Mendoza Jr. I was like, is he something we know better? Bro is Viano 4.
I know he is. We've talked about
Have we talked about this?
Yes, this whole thing.
I'm still mad about it, okay? I love the Vianos. Just let them be Vianos, man. This is some bullshit.
Oh, man.
I enjoy maybe the listeners don't enjoy it, but I enjoy forgetting things and getting mad about them again.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic.
All right. After that, though, we go to the break and we come back, and I know you want to talk about this because Hammer and Hank Aaron in the crowd, Joseph. In the crowd. Tell me about this.
He's not in the crowd yet because Kevin Sullivan and Jimmy Hart and Jacqueline haven't had their promo.
Oh, did I miss that? I don't care, man. Hank Aaron in the crowd. I saw Hank Aaron. I was like, that's what I'm gonna write about. Well, tell me about this promo that I didn't take any notes on.
Jimmy Hart says he made the prediction when they went back to Atlanta that Women and Benoit wouldn't make it, but they would, as in the Dungeon of Doom. I don't remember him making that prediction, but okay. Jacqueline says they left them laying at the pay-per-view, but you guys lost, and they left you laying. How are these guys back and Benoit's not? Like, that doesn't make any sense. They're the one. Okay, whatever. Sullivan says that after they got in the ambulance, here's their explanation. Jacqueline jumped back up. Apparently, she's super Jacqueline. She just hulked up real quick. And then she jumped into Benoit's ambulance and then beat both them up. So that's their quick way of explaining this away.
Did we see this?
No, never happened.
See, this is why I skipped this.
My last note here is just kill me. Stop this rivalry. It makes no sense anymore. I gave it a D.
And now you understand why I blacked out and took notes on this.
I do.
Tell me about Hammer and Hank, though.
Hammer and Hank is in the crowd, like you mentioned. At this time, he is the all-time career home run leader with 755. This would be eclipsed in 2007 by Barry Bonds. They say that he's the greatest home run hitter of all time at the time. You agree with that, Scott?
Hank's still a home run leader. I just dropped that grenade.
We're not going to argue about that. We don't have the time for that.
That's for the Patreon.
Yeah, for real. I will say, the weird thing about Hank Aaron, never like the best in any season I could think of. I mean, there might have been some seasons where he led the league, but he was never like he never hit like 60 home runs. Like he was never that guy. He just was consistently great. That's what made him so good, is he was consistently always in that 30-40 range. You couple that with a 20 plus year career and you get what he got, which is just this amazing record of 755. The previous record was 714 by Babe Ruth. And when he broke that record, of course, leading up to it, he got a bunch of death threats. Because I don't know if you know this, Hank Aaron's black and people be racist.
So I hear.
So I just real quickly looked it up. I was wrong. He did lead the league in home runs 3 times, but it was always it was 44 home runs. 4 times actually. I'm sorry. The first 3 times were all 44 home runs. The last time was 39 home runs. But like I said, he never had a 50 home run season, which really brings that record into just like perspective. That's insane. To have no 50 home run seasons and hit that many home runs is just a pillar of consistency. So fucking what a great player. Stand-up dude, by the way, class act, was a fantastic individual. Rest in peace. Love that guy. Huge person for baseball, deservedly so.
Dean Malenko versus Mike Enos. 4 minutes, 28 seconds. This is heel Dean.
So with Malenko's new attitude, he just obliterates Enos. There's no contest in this. He just destroys him. Malenko grabs a mic and says that he hopes Guerrero was paying attention, because this is what the new and improved Malenko looks like. I'm giving this another C+. The promo is quite good, honestly, because it's very short and very sweet, and that's what we want from Dean Malenko. And I'm cool with that. This rivalry will become questionable for me immediately next week, but we'll have to get there, and we'll talk about it then, because they haven't done any missteps yet. But right now, it's fine.
But then we go back to the ring. Well, not really. It's kind of like we're like in an aisle or something. And Mean Gene there, and he with Eric Bischoff. And Eric starts running his mouth, but we get a visit, do we not?
We do get a visit. It's from Harvey Schiller, that man that we saw, that mysterious man that we saw at the top of the program. He is the head of Turner Sports, like you mentioned, and apparently he is Eric Bischoff's boss. Bischoff, before Harvey Schiller comes down, says he's the most powerful man in the industry. And he thanks Lex for suggesting that they show their power at the pay-per-view. And again, so far, I am on board with the main event at Uncensored. And then it's going to get derailed very soon. But not in this segment. This segment is quite good. Harvey Schiller comes down and he says to Bischoff, we need to talk, and we need to talk right now. And he says, you think that just because you have a contract, you can do whatever you want. And he gives some more examples along those lines, like you can fire any referee because you have a contract, that you can fire employees because you have a contract, things like that. And Bischoff finally says, yes, actually, because I have this contract, that's exactly what I believe I can do. So Schiller says, okay, well, as of right now, you're suspended. Then Schiller spends a long time explaining how he's suspended. And Bischoff is a whiny heel, which works so well. And I love this wrinkle. And Schiller's basically saying, any contracts you've given out, we're going to be reviewing. Anybody you fired, we're going to be reviewing. Basically, any championship you've stripped, we're going to be reviewing the whole thing. Every single thing you've done in the last few months, we're going to be reviewing that and deciding if those things are going to stand. And that's really cool. It's a really cool wrinkle. I gave this segment an A. I thought it was fantastic. Harvey Schiller, who we've never seen on TV, does a great job as the stern boss. Loved him in this role.
You know, I think it's great. I agree with you, because we've got competition now. The NWO can't do whatever they want. They can't lose titles and then cheat. You know, Eric Bischoff points to some rule, some subsection of the rule book about why you can't have the titles and all that kind of stuff. Eric has met his match, and I like this. This adds kind of a shot in the arm to WCW and the NWO. I hope they don't mess it up.
No, there's no way. There's no way, right? Yeah,
they're gonna mess it up. But after that, we got Eddie Guerrero and we got the Ultimo Dragon, because we on a roll now. This is hot. 3 minutes, 49 seconds. Tell me.
3 minutes for this banger.
Yeah, next match is longer. Keep that in mind.
Can't wait to talk about who it is, too. So Eddie Guerrero wins surprisingly quickly, like you mentioned, and he uses the ropes on the pin. Is this accidental or is he showing a little Latino heat? We don't know. But Mean Gene interviews him and says Dean Malenko blames Eddie for not being champ. Eddie says everyone knows his intentions were good, but they turned sour. It was an accident. He apologized and it hasn't been accepted. Then Dean comes out and confronts Eddie. They trade barbs back and forth. And Dean kind of says, in some sort of way, that Eddie is basically turning heel. Like he kind of says that. Like he says like he's cheating and stuff, which is just like weird. Okay. And the reason this is weird is that you've clearly turned Dean Malenko into the heel. It's not too bad here, but next week it gets even worse, where it's like, okay, then who the fuck is the heel? That's when I really start to not enjoy this rivalry, which is sad because this is like the two guys I want to see having a rivalry. They trade barbs. Malenko says Eddie has lost his respect, and then we head to commercial. Because of the match length and because of the weirdness of their back and forth, I'm giving this a C. Also, Eddie's not really Eddie yet. Like he doesn't have that promo yet down. He stumbles quite a bit here, and so that's unfortunate. We're going to be giving Eddie A's left and right soon, but right now he's still in C territory.
Yeah, he's still kind of he's still Edward Guerrero, as I think you like to call him.
Eduardo Guerrero.
Yeah, good guy Eddie. You know, he's the face in this situation. He was trying to be good. He wants to show his respect to Dean, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a little inkling of a heel turn here, and we can't wait for it because heel Eddie is one of the greatest wrestling gimmicks of all time. Love Latino heat. Hour number 2. And we go to the commentary table, and they are ecstatic. They're ecstatic about Eric Bischoff getting his walking papers. He's been suspended. And Bobby thinks that he might be on the unemployment line by tomorrow morning. Love it. And then they show us a clip of it again, in case you missed it. Anything you want to add about this, or should we go into the match?
No, I will say the hour number 2 kind of recap clip, I'm kind of okay with. Like, if you do it once, I'm okay with it. Because it's like, yeah, hour number 2, like, people could, even if they're not watching wrestling, because obviously Raw is now 2 hours, but even if they're not watching wrestling, if you're tuning in on the second hour, that's a good thing to kind of know, hey, this happened at the top of the program. I think that works pretty well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we're in the Monday Night Wars. People might be flipping around, you know? And so I think it makes perfect sense that you recapped what happened previously in the show for anyone who might have decided to flip over from WWF or whatever. I think it works. But after that, we get... Is it the longest match of the night? No, it is not.
Oh, dude, that would have been insane.
Juventud was longer. Juventud
Okay.
and Viano 4 was longer. But we got Scotty Riggs and Michael Wall Street, 4 minutes, 27 seconds. Longer than Eddie Guerrero and Ultimo Dragon. Tell me.
It's just insane. So we do get told by commentary during this match that the executive committee are reviewing the contracts recently given out by the NWO. I think this is actually how they write out some of the wrestlers from the NWO, which is kind of funny. Like, it's creatively stupid, but I like it. Where, like, I think Mike Wall Street's one of them. I think Big Bubba's one of them, where they just kind of get removed from the NWO because their contracts aren't legit or something. It's so fucking
Which is
corny.
fine.
Yeah.
Because we've thought this from the beginning, and I think they're starting to realize it now. The NWO is too big.
Yeah. So, which they're going to answer that problem by making it even bigger.
I mean, of course. You know, I've always said is I feel like they should have a core 4 or 5 guys, and then they could have just like, faceless jobbers, just dudes that kind of look like Vincent with the NWO t-shirt on and some jeans. You know, if they need a bunch of guys, but I don't want them. Yeah. They just need, an entourage or whatever, but I don't want them to have like a stable of 12, 15, 20, like headline named wrestlers. I don't like that. They're a clique. They're small, you know?
Interesting choice of words there.
What?
They also mentioned that the executive committee is inviting Piper to get his own team together to wrestle in the uncensored match for all the titles. This sounds like a good idea, but it isn't. Buff interferes in this match and Scotty Riggs wins via DQ. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense. Buff and Scotty Riggs, former tag team champions, former tag team partners, and now bitter rivals. Scotty Riggs grabs a chair, but it's a standard non-folding chair, and I laughed out loud. and then Buff runs. And I gave this a C. It's not a great match. It's fucking sad that it's the second longest match. And yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, even longer than the next one, which is two guys we really like. But we can't start with that yet because we got some stuff to talk about.
Oh boy, do we?
Yeah. Well, I think we got to talk about something. I feel like that was some sarcasm, but the first thing you want to talk about.
Absolutely, I do.
Because Lee Marshall is in Panama, Panama City, Florida, with the 1-800-COLLECT Road Report. Next week is Nitro and apparently Spring Break, and they're going to do it all together in Panama, Florida. Tell me about this. I loved it.
It's great. He's in the country's largest club, apparently, Club La Vila in Panama Beach. This is actually where they're going to have Nitro next week, and it is one of my favorite Nitro venues ever. Right up there with the Universal Studios or Disney World. That's what it was. Disney World set that they had. Love both those sets. Anyways, like you said, he talks about Monday Nitro and Spring Break being on the same night, which brings up a very delicate subject that he needs to talk about. He says there's really no politically correct way to say this. The people of Club La Vila actually circulated a petition, despite the fact that it's Spring Break, and you'd assume, all bets are off with Spring Break. They determined Bobby Heenan is not, I repeat, not allowed to wear a thong. A frightening thought. A little too much weasel and not quite enough material. Bobby says Lee works part-time at Club Big Mouth. I love this. It's an A+.
It's fantastic. And we can't even catch our breath from another star-studded banger Lee Marshall Road Report because we get hit with them bagpipes. Tell me.
This segment, man, it's notoriously one of the worst segments in Nitro history, and it immediately is bad. And I will say there is a lot of potential in this idea before I get into it. There's a lot of potential in it, but of course they have no idea what they're doing with stuff like this. So it falls flat on its face. Piper says 2 times. He actually just comes out. He just says 2 times. That's all he says for some reason. And you go, okay, what? And then he goes, there's a problem Hogan doesn't have, and that's insomnia. 2 times, Hogan. We meet 2 times. You sleep. He's kind of doing caveman talk, but I love it. I get what he's saying, right? We've met twice, and both times you've fallen asleep because I put you on the sleeper hold, and you've fallen asleep. I get it; it's good, but I do got to admit, Savage coming in there was a wee bit of a surprise for me, which I loved when he said that. That made me laugh. I heard right now more than roadkill. I think to myself, they cloned 2 monkeys. One's named Hall, one's named Nash. Everyone is talking like they're afraid of the NWO. I'll tell you something. I got one family that lives on a mountain in Portland, Oregon. I got another family, and that's you folks. He says when Hogan walks in, hair rapidly falls out. He's actually cooking right now. I kind of like his promo. Then he says, I'm going to make a 3rd family, but I won't contrive them. He says basically he's got 6 guys in the back, and he'll take them on one at a time, and he'll let the fans decide who will be his family. This is problem number 1. He says Icon stands for I cower over nothing. He says, I must be an idiot, man, and everyone laughs. One man after another comes down to fight him, and he makes the first give up, and the fans say no. Okay, so that first one won't be on his team. Second one comes out, and this guy also loses, but fun fact, he would later make it into the WWE in 2004 as Luther Reigns. That's who the second guy is. But he gets his ass beat right here. Third guy has boxing gloves. So Piper puts on boxing gloves, and this is a callback to, I think, WrestleMania 2 when he boxed Mr. T, and it was stupid. And so that's the callback they have here. And after taking a flurry, he beats up the guy, but the guy fights back, and then it becomes a mat brawl, and Piper finally has to call time, and they shake hands. Piper has his first guy. The crowd by this point hates this, understandably so, because it's fucking stupid. The 4th guy comes out and is apparently a big karate guy. This guy gets winded pretty quickly, and the crowd starts chanting boring. I agree. Piper picks this guy, and the crowd boos. The next is John Tenta, who we love. We love John Tenta. And
Hell yeah.
the crowd also loves John Tenta, and they, knowing at least a little bit of history, know that John Tenta makes perfect sense for this team. And so he becomes one of the team members. Tenta beats up not just Piper, but he also beats up the other two guys, and Piper loves this, which is again why I think the idea makes sense of what you're doing here. They just execute it poorly. Piper declares this is his team, but by my count, that means that there should have been one more guy who we never saw. But okay. In theory, this is okay, but it falls apart immediately next week.
Like you said, I don't hate the idea. I hate how it's handled, and I also hate how none of these guys are going to be on Team Piper.
Yeah, that's wild.
This is not Team Piper. Like you and I I remember when we watched this first time, you and I kind of liked it. Like, I kind of like that he's just like doing open tryouts, just kind of anybody who wants to try, like normal, kind of working class kind of guys. This is very gritty, very, very Piper. This feels very Piper. Not handled really well, but the idea we really kind of liked. And then it must have been because it was so poorly received. Like the crowd hates this. That maybe they were watching and said, "No, we can't do this."
Yeah, probably.
Because none of these, not even John Tenta, which is crazy.
Yeah,
none
absolutely.
of these guys are in it, and it's just, it's
All
over before it starts. Yeah, and it only gets worse because none of this shit happens. Anyways, Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Mr. JL. 4 minutes, 6 seconds.
This is a fun match, but Rey hits the Rana and it was over. The only real notable thing is that Prince Iaukea says that Rey will get another shot at Uncensored for the TV title. I gave it a C+.
After that, we got Mean Gene in the aisle now with Medusa. Remember, we have a women's division. And she's the number 1 contender for the women's championship. Well, how about that? What'd you think of this?
He asked Medusa, Gene asked Medusa where has she been? And Medusa says, great question. She's been with WCW for more than a year and trashed a world-class title in a can to come to WCW and open up women's wrestling. And what does she get? She sits dormant because Bischoff is more interested in himself and the NWO, which as far as she is concerned, stands for New Women's Organization. That's the only slip up in this. Everything else has worked really well. She says, that isn't all. Bischoff should have been fired. She says she is the number 1 contender and she will win the title. She says that apparently Luna Vachon is backstage, and then Luna Vachon attacks her from behind. Behind the scenes, Luna Vachon and Medusa were very, very close. Medusa has always spoken very highly of Vachon, even though she acknowledges Vachon's many, many struggles. Vachon, for her own part, is just one of the most underrated female wrestlers of all time. Her run in WCW will not last very long, and she will kind of exclusively wrestle Medusa. On a side note, Medusa was shooting on this whole thing. I agree. I gave it a B.
Yeah, she ain't wrong.
No.
She ain't wrong on any of it. After that, we got the New World Order. They're out here, and Eric's out here too, because I thought he got suspended. Why is he here? Tell me, Joseph.
Bischoff says that Schiller can't fire him because they are friends with Ted Turner. So just like that, Ted DiBiase is irrelevant.
Oop!
Hogan agrees and says people need to know their limitations, just like Roddy Piper needs to. And then Bischoff is about to ask Mach something, but Hogan wants to instead. And he tells Mach to tell him what we talked about, Mach. And Mach says, first of all, you've got protection. Roddy Piper, you need a psychiatrist real bad. Because when you wear a shirt that says Icon after Hollywood punked and gunked you twice, brother, when you compare career versus career with the Macho Man Randy Savage for Icon versus Icon, you're way in the back. I feel sorry for you, Piper, because you got a lot of mental problems. You can't even beat Elizabeth. And then Hogan then talks, and he's boring, but he pumps up his team. Everyone in the NWO is unified, but Sting kind of stays in a separate corner from the rest of them. Kevin Nash says the NWO, this Scott is just too sweet. He doesn't do the high-pitched sweet on that one for some reason. Bischoff tells Hollywood to give them the guns as we head to commercial. I gave this a C. It's not very good outside of Mach.
Yeah, Mach is great. Well, I mean, or the story's kind of already fallen apart, right? Eric's out here. It's fine. Don't worry. We know Ted Turner. Man, what?
Yeah.
Come on. Anyways, we got our main event. It's a tag team match. Lex Luger and the Giant against the Steiner brothers. And this, I think in theory, it's like it goes like 3 minutes, but it don't really, it's a no contest. Tell me.
Yeah. Scott Steiner is in an all-white singlet. I wonder what that can mean. Scott actually hits a forearm jerk or Italian salute to the Giant, which is going to be hilarious where this goes. So Scott Steiner showing some edge here. The NWO come through the crowd and surround the ring. Sting comes down the ramp. Piper runs in with his group. The NWO is about to go in when the show ends with a brawl just starting. Okay, I gave it a C.
Well, that's the end of that. We'll move on because we're running out of time, my friend. We got to keep this shit tight. We're over to Raw. And Raw is in Berlin, Germany at the Deutschland Hall. I think it just means German Hall. That's just fucking what it means. Deutschland Hall.
Oh, man. Ronnie probably there.
Yeah. Speaking of that.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
You got something you got to mention. Since we're already in Germany, might as well mention it.
This is a perfect time. Ronnie, we're talking to you, pal. So we sent the shirt. It got returned to return to sender. So we're going to have to figure out what happened. I thought I did everything right when it came to the, I don't know. Our president's a fucking idiot. So it's probably his fault. I'm going to blame him.
Wow. Got political there. My goodness.
This is the worst kind of discrimination. The kind against me. Anyways.
You think Trump personally intervened and said, not that
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
He heard us talking. He heard me talking shit about Hogan and was just like, no.
Ooh, that's a good point. I think you've said shit about him before, and he's a big and Trump big fan of
podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a cheap ass and doesn't subscribe to the Patreon. Anyways.
Damn. Well, let's get into this. Yeah, Ronnie, so contact us so we can figure out what the issue is. But anyways, let's get into this because we are in Germany. It's kind of wild, actually.
Absolutely.
And I think this is kind of great. The WWF European Title Tournament final is tonight.
Yeah. So this tournament has been happening during their tour. So all their live shows, they've been having a tournament to decide who the European Championship will go to. So we haven't seen this on Raw. So if you're like, wait, that's confusing. No, it's been a live tour thing. I actually am kind of okay with that. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think it's great that the final is in Europe. It's in Germany. So that's fun. And we've got Davey Boy Smith, British, European, all of the British the British don't really consider themselves European. It's a whole thing. Whatever. We're Americans. We don't care. You're European. Versus other well-known European, Owen Hart.
Absolutely.
Canada, that's kind of like Europe.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's
and
just Western Europe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very West. Yeah. And then we've got Vince, Jim Ross, and the Honky Tonk Man on commentary. What is up with that?
Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Uh-huh. Well, let's get into our first match because we start off with kind of a wild match. Start off with Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Bret the Hitman Hart. And this shit is 17 minutes, 20 seconds.
WCW don't even know what to do with that time.
No.
Bret Hart has a picture-in-picture and says that he hopes that Stone Cold is watching the match at home so he will know what he's going to do to him, which I thought was great. Very quick, very simple. Is this the only time these two have ever wrestled each other one-on-one on our screens? Let us know. I genuinely don't remember a match with them prior. We may have one in the future, but I don't recall it. But this is, I think, the first time we've seen this matchup. And it does not disappoint, by the way. Speaking of, by the way, Honky Tonk Man, like you said, is doing commentary, and he just still makes me laugh when he's like, no, Hunter isn't who I'm looking for. Because when he decides, you're like, Hunter wasn't the right guy, but this was the right guy? Okay. Bret Hart has Hunter in the Tree of Woe and is kicking him when the ref tries to pull him off, and he pushes the ref and gets DQ'd. We get some edge here from the Hitman. Or if you put an S in that, you'll get what Stone Cold thinks of him. China, of all people. Look, that was an actual promo. So
yeah, what happens?
China runs in to protect Hunter. We still don't know her name, by the way. And she gets walked out by security. And then JR says, this is a little too coincidental for me. No, JR. Lots of people follow Helmsley all the way to Germany and back. I really enjoyed this. It was 17 fun minutes. These two are great in the ring. They had great chemistry together. I gave it a B.
Speaking of the shit, man, we go live to Stamford, Connecticut at the WWF studios because we got an interview with Stone Cold. But it's just an empty chair because he's taking a dump.
Yeah, which is so stupid.
I mean, they don't actually say it, but we hear a toilet flush.
We hear a toilet flush, yeah, so it's implied.
That's the implication here, yeah. So we'll come back to that, I guess. And then we get a replay of Owen and Davey Boy having their falling out at the Royal Rumble, which kind of explains why they're at each other's throats for the European title. And then we get the Slam of the Week brought to you by WWF Full Metal, the album. I loved those albums, by the way, with the intro songs. They were fantastic. I own them.
Yeah.
I own them, bro. I got them. And it's Undertaker beating the shit out of Farouk. That's what it was, just so you know. After that, though, we got Rocky Maivia versus Vader for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. 15 minutes, 1 second. I love it. These matches are insanely long. 17 minutes for the first one, 17 and a half minutes, 15 minutes for this one. If this was WCW, this would be Rick Fuller versus
Rocky Maivia for well, that one would be 5 minutes, and then Vader versus Mankind would be 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about this one though.
This may be Rocky's best individual performance to date. He actually has excellent chemistry with Vader, which I was very surprised by. It's a very fun match that ends in DQ when Mankind attacks Rocky. Vader is mad about this, and he takes out Rocky. He's mad because he got DQ because he didn't want Mankind's help. On the one hand, I would have preferred to see a clean win for Rocky. However, I do understand it's hard to book when you have, kind of the want for Vader to be a monster heel. So I get that. I gave this a B-. It's another just enjoyable start.
Yeah, Vader doesn't win, but Rocky did. So title may become available here. Speaking of dead, we go to flashbacks of ECW just beating the shit out of everyone on Raw last night. And they blurred the nasty full-on chair shot. They blurred that part where Devon hits Dreamer because it was nasty. There's like no.
Yeah. WWE would never. They would never. Vince would never allow a chair shot to the head.
We're not quite there yet, but it was like I remember the chair bends like it's a nasty shot, and yeah, they blur that for us because in hindsight, I guess maybe USA called and said no, that's not okay, so they blurred it going forward. But after that, because I mean WWF kind of just keeps rolling. After that, we got another match. We got the Sultan versus Flash Funk. And this is 11 minutes, 17 seconds. Tell me.
For of all the matches, that's wild to give this one that much time. Jerry Lawler's on the phone, and he says that he and the rest of the WWF is upset about ECW last week, and that they need ECW like Michael Jordan needs Head and Shoulders. Honestly, I like that line. It's pretty good.
Not bad.
He calls.
We give Jerry credit when he deserves it.
Yes. He calls Paul E an idiot and invites them to show up again next week. Paul E then gets to call in and says that if Jerry speaks for the whole WWF, then why doesn't his employer care enough about him to buy him a ticket to Berlin? Jerry's line was nice, but Paul Heyman only throws haymakers. It was a fantastic line from Paul Heyman. Vin Man thanks Paulie for the action last week. Paulie thanks him for the screen time and showcase of ECW. I almost said NWO. Blue World Order instead of NWO. He also says that they will answer the call, so they will be there next Monday. Meanwhile, the match is boring and Sultan wins. I gave it a C.
We go back to Stone Cold. Do we get Stone Cold this time?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we go back to Germany. And we're talking with Psycho Sid, and I feel like this isn't one of Sid's better ones. What do you think?
Really? I actually I
like
this
one.
Yeah, Sid says he heard Mankind brushed up on his German, but what you should have done is get ready for the game. Sid is absolutely right. The game is the game, yo. He continues that the game is simple. 2 men enter and 1 survives. This game we play, I am the master, and you have to learn the hard way because tonight you will become another symbol of one of my many victories on the road to WrestleMania. He also says that he will go to the dark side against The Undertaker. I actually did like this promo. I gave it a B.
Well, right. See, I think the issue is here that you actually understood him because I failed. Because he's just kind of going wild on this one.
Yeah.
And which I do enjoy, but I was just like, you gotta
Rein it in a little.
Yeah, you gotta give it to me a little bit clearer there, Psycho Sid. I like it. I like the enthusiasm, but in a way I understand. They should put him and oh God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. You're going down.
Oh, Ahmed. No, I would kill myself.
Could you imagine?
I would, if I had to transcribe a promo between the two of them, I would lose my mind.
Psycho Sid and Ahmed Johnson tag team. Oh, that would be so good. I love it. Let's book it. Let's book it. Anyways, we go back to now we're doing some more highlights of Owen and Davey Boy Smith. Just how they've been having some issues, kind of getting us ready for the main event here. That's pretty much it. And then we get speaking Ahmed Johnson. Here he comes. And he's going to tell us whether or not he's going to take Farouk's challenge to a Chicago street fight. And Joseph, what'd you make of this one?
This one I did not like. Ahmed Johnson accepts the challenge, but says he will not come alone. Then he says a bunch of other stuff, and I'm not really trying to insult him, but number one, it is really hard to hear or to understand what he says normally. The over the mic in this stadium is really not good. Like, however they've done the production on this, it's really hard to hear anything he says. So on top of him being, almost unintelligible, normally, then you can't even hear what he's saying. So I really didn't pick up anything. Then I did pick up this one though. He starts "You're going down" chant. I gave it a D.
Yeah, Farouk going down. I think specifically.
Yeah,
to make it very clear who was going down, because we might not have known, and I appreciate it. We get some more flashbacks. We talk about Shotgun Saturday Night. Whatever. We get WWF World Championship match: Psycho Sid versus Mankind. 10 minutes 28 seconds. Tell me.
Steve Austin, gets a picture-in-picture. And he says that he was sitting in seat 38C on his way to Stamford, Connecticut today. He said it was right next to the airplane outhouse. He says he had a stale sandwich stuffed in a brown paper bag. He liked to say that's what made him sick, but it's actually Bret Hart's whining and crying.
Damn!
Fantastic from him. And then he cuts off. We're going to go back to him in a bit. This match itself is fine. You can tell that this is kind of a house show, the way they've booked this. And they essentially kind of just recorded a house show. It's kind of how they've done this. It's like, because you wouldn't really have a match like this on Raw, but it works for like a tour. Like, it makes a lot of sense. You're going to want to have heavy hitters and like big title shots. The result, though, was never in question. Obviously, Sid is going to win this match. He has to kind of make sense for the whole WrestleMania thing, what they're going to be doing in a couple weeks. I did enjoy it, though. I gave it a B.
After that, we get some more flashbacks about Davey Boy Smith and Owen Hart. Davey Boy fired Clarence Mason. There's trouble between the teams. Whatever. Let's get to one of the most important events of the night, and that is this Stone Cold Steve Austin promo. Tell me, we are back, and oh my God,
yeah,
it's a masterclass.
Austin is asked if he shows any remorse. Austin says, "The only remorse I got is that I didn't hit him harder with that steel chair." Bret Hart runs around talking about everybody screwing him. For the past 7 years, I've been screwed, and it's the same old song. How come when Shawn Michaels hurts his knee, you make a video out of him? How come when Shawn Michaels gets sick, you tell the world he's got the flu? Well, when I went to the Final Four, I was sick as a dog. I had a blown out knee. Let me ask you a question. How many one-legged people can go 25 minutes with 3 of the top wrestlers in the world? None. Stone Cold Steve Austin went out there and did just that. I ain't making fun of no one-legged people. Really nice of him to be politically correct about this. I ain't making fun of no one-legged people. I'm just trying to make a point As far as I'm concerned, I truly am the World Wrestling Federation champion, and can't nobody tell me different. Not you or anybody. As far as a submission match, it's a bunch of bull. Bret Hart, he's supposed to be the big technician, the sharpshooter, big deal. I don't know a whole lot of submission moves, but it doesn't matter because I'll beat the hell out of Bret Hart. And as far as Ken Shamrock says on TV the other day, oh, I don't know, Bret Hart is the better technician, but Stone Cold's got no quit in him. Well, you hit the nail right on the head, because I ain't got no quit in me at all. And you can bet your bottom dollar that Stone Cold ain't going to look at the referee and say, I quit. So let me take that over. And you can bet your bottom dollar that Stone Cold ain't going to look at the referee and say, I quit, I submit, I've had too much. There ain't nobody in wrestling who can make me quit. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. Then Vin Man asked more questions which are unnecessary, and the promo is perfect and over. Shut up, Vin Man. Gave it an A+. It's fantastic.
It's phenomenal.
It's perfect
Loved
storytelling.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the main event. The British Bulldog. I kind of fumbled over that. And Owen Hart for the WWF European Championship. 16 minutes, 58 seconds. Tell me.
This is the debut of the European Championship, one of my absolute favorite titles. I love this title. Anytime a new WWE 2K game comes out and you do the universe mode, I always make this one of my lower card titles. I love it. This is easily the match of the night for WWF, which is honestly saying quite a bit because we've had some good matches. Out of pocket, Honky Tonk Man says that Stu Hart had a brain aneurysm this week, like Elizabeth Taylor did, so he doesn't know who to root for. Honky taking the Jerry role and honestly feels like someone who would be intimidated by someone like Elizabeth Taylor, but whatever. I was going to go into who Elizabeth Taylor is. We don't have time for it, so whatever.
Absolutely not. But also, holy shit, Honky Tonk.
Right? But that is a Jerry line. I was so surprised by that. Ultimately, Davey Boy wins the match to become the inaugural champ when he reverses a roll-up. This is a great match, and I highly recommend you actually go out and watch it. It's fantastic. It's also not hard to find. It's the main event, so you can just fast forward to the end if you want to. Owen seems jealous, but the two do celebrate together, and so we get another wrinkle in their kind of rivalry that will never really have a completion, but it will make sense why it doesn't in a few weeks. I gave this an A+. I loved it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, man, it was good. I like this match. I mean, Owen and Bulldog, come on. I love the way it ended. I love when, I like Owen being the technician and trying to do clever stuff, and he tries to win on this, this role, and Bulldog says, nah, I know your game.
Yeah.
It was great. It was just really clever. I liked the whole thing. Who won, though? Who is the winner of the night? Is it WWF or is it WCW?
It's WWF. This is such a better show.
Wow, even with the production difficulties?
Yes, because there was production difficulties, but I know where every single one of these storylines is going.
You didn't like the Scotty Riggs, Michael Wall Street 4-minute, 27-second match?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you have it. I think you're right. I think WWF was better.
Yeah.
Because I like some of the stuff. I like the new direction WCW is taking, but then they just immediately stop. Within the night, we had reversed it. Yeah. So yeah, WWF seems to have a tighter product right now. There's not a lot of stuff going on in between the matches, but the stuff that is going on is pretty tight, pretty focused, story driven.
Yeah,
it's good. I prefer it. WWF wins. And I think that does it for us. Unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about, pay-per-views you've seen, whatever. Are we good?
Look, there's going to be an unedited version of this on the Patreon because we went way over on time. I am good. I am all talked out. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening. Good night, everybody.
Hey everybody, it's Joseph. And guess what? Not only can you listen to us every Monday on Spotify, but you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube Podcasts as well. Just search for Monday Night Wars Podcast. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us on Twitter at MON Night Wars Pod, on Instagram at Monday Night Wars Podcast, or just email us at mnwpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, subscribe to our Patreon at Monday Night Wars Podcast. For $2 a month, you get every pay-per-view from WCW and WWF during this era, as well as additional content later on. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you here next time on the Monday Night Wars Podcast.